And hello, everybody. I'm Walter. I'm the Dutch mentor, and welcome back to the Smart Performance Podcast. S for self care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive problem solving, R for rhythmic operations, T for building a thriving community, and of course, P for performance. Now, we have had many different topics and many twists on leadership, or what it is, or how to become an effective leader. But today, in the next 15 minutes, so again, high energy, actionable. So stick with us. It's a great for to listen to on the way to work. I've met with me today. We're going to dive into the topic of legacy. Of course, legacy can be a 30-year-old leaving to another job or a 60-year-old leaving an organization to go into retirement. So we're going to cover these topics and why this is important to you. Always remember, go to the Dutch Mentor on the Apple App Store, download the app, and get on that journey today. It is action you need to take in order to get the results you desire. Matt, good morning. Thank you very much for being here today. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks. So I'm Matt Kutz. I'm a professor at Florida International University. I teach in a doctoral program there in the College of Nursing and Health Science. I have 32 years of teaching experience, faculty experience, written 8 or 9 books, editor of a couple journals, hundreds of peer-reviewed scientific publications, all in the leadership space, mostly in the leadership space. And I love talking about legacy. So let's get started.
Yeah, it is. So and it was Maya Angelou who has a great saying, right? It's not what you do to people, but how you make them feel. Explain to the audience, what is legacy? What does it really mean, and why is it important, or should it be important to us?
Yeah, so that's actually a brilliant opening quote, because one of the things I like to say is most people believe or think that legacy is how I'm remembered after. And I mean, that's partly true. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I think it's more about how you make people feel every day that you're there on the job, because we think of legacy after the fact. Oh boy, I hope I did a good job. Or you're on your way out, or you're transitioning out, and you begin to think, oh, I better start doing some things to leave a positive legacy here. And then it's too late. So if we're thinking about legacy is something you start your first day on the job. Even if you're not the boss per se, anywhere on the hierarchy of an organization, you should be thinking about your legacy. And that, for me, means how am I making people feel every day?
So interesting, because when you talk about that, I talk about personal brand. Now, legacy is part of your personal brand, right? It's really more or less the back end of it. Each one of us needs to remember, we're no different if we go to Disney, that everybody at Disney is not a person who works at Disney, but it's actually a character that's on stage. In healthcare, for example, when you're walking around in your scrubs and ID tag and you go grocery shopping, you are on stage. People are always looking at you and how you make people feel, what it is that you do for people. Talk a little bit more about the personal brand as established. What are some of the attributes you would be looking for, or people should be thinking about, and how can they make that actionable as it relates to the legacy?
Consistency. And I actually use this example in my own coaching, where no matter where I'm at, no matter where I'm going, people know that I work for the university. So even if I'm in plain clothes, because you mentioned even the doctor who's in scrubs or whatever, even if I'm in plain clothes, people know. And if I'm at a little league game watching my son play or my grandson play, and I lose it at the umpire, coaching, then people don't just think that I'm kind of a knucklehead. They also know, well, he works for the university, or he works for this person, and they start to feel sorry for my wife. They start to feel sorry for my employer, and I represent that. And that's really, for me, how legacy is lived out every day. It's consistency in your behavior, consistency in your attitude, consistency in what you do. The idea of a personal brand is spot on, 100% spot on, because we have to always remember that everywhere we go, we are representing the people who know us and the people who we claim to be related to. And we often say, I think it's silly things. We say silly things like, well, I'm on my own time now, or I can do what I want on my time, and I clocked out, so you can't say anything about what I'm doing or where I'm at. And that's just simply not true. I mean, I know it's an ideal, and especially our westernized societies, that we have these private lives and these separate lives. And the fact of the matter is, we just don't. And you can argue with me if you want. I say this tongue in cheek, but you'd be wrong. And I think that that's a big part of legacy, maybe even the biggest part of legacy. And the understanding, just to recap again, just understanding that wherever I go, I am always representative of the people who I claim to be in relationship with. That's my employer, that's my family, that's my community, my synagogue, my church, whatever it might be, my political orientation and affiliation. All of those things are get affected by my behavior. And that's really where legacy begins. The person who is mindful of their legacy has those things in mind.
Love the explanation. So it allows me to dive a little deeper into something we see more of, the Z's and M's. They are so intertwined into social media, but they are not mindful about who they are at work and who they are on social media. So talk a little bit about that and why that is so important. And I think you touched on that, but what are some of the cases that you have seen where people have made real mistakes that had real life implications that they have come to regret?
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's pervasive now. First of all, the lines have blurred tremendously, and it's particularly relevant in, I'll say, the younger generation. The cases are, there's the classic cases that we all know about of, I'm interviewing for a job and somebody sees my social media post and all of a sudden I'm off the list of candidates because of something I've said, something I've done, something I've misrepresented. That is available in public. And I know of cases where people have gone back and said, you can't use that against me. That's what I did on my own time. Not realizing that that's part of who you are. And we're not just hiring your skill set. So many people think, especially again, the younger generations, it shouldn't matter. You're just hiring my skills. And that's, again, just simply not true. I'm hiring you and what you bring with me. This is why AI is such an issue, because, we've done everything down to, or boiled everything down to, this is just my skills that you need. And we're forgetting the fact that we are human. And what makes our job, our legacy important is the human interaction. It's the soul behind our work, the context behind our work, and the nuance in the ideas and the nuance in how I bring something. And we can't ever forget that. And so that's just one case, the employee at work. There's, on the news and stuff that happens a lot of, somebody says something or it comes out in a incredible display of ignorance or arrogance, and they lose their job, they lose their credibility. And I've seen it most when credibility is threatened. And what we have to remember is people are watching. And it's almost like with the social media the way it is, it's not quite we're omnipresent, but it's approaching that, where people will not only look at what you've done now, but they'll dig back. They'll go back. I think it was Kevin Trudeau several years ago, the former prime minister in Canada, had that experience where they found pictures of him in college, wearing blackface, and that just ruined him, and it really threatened his integrity. It threatened his ability to lead and influence people, and that was something that he did foolishly as a college kid at a party when back then it didn't matter, but now it does. And this is the big thing. This is the legacy piece that is so critical. Is there's never a time now where what you didn't matter, because you're not being judged by the standards of the time in the past. You're being judged by the standards now, and that can wreck or elevate a legacy.
Yeah, interesting. If you don't believe that, just go to one of the go to a Senate hearing and listen to when they are going to bring a judge on board on what happened in 1983 is relevant. And I remember very well, one of my daughters had really interest in joining a think tank in DC on international policies, or even going to the CIA. And she started posting things on her at that time. I think, a Facebook account. And I said, listen, no. So you remember that every single word that is written will come back to bite you. And if you talk about it in a partisan way, trust me, you're not going to get that job of your dreams at some point in time. The other thing is of course, that I remind people is that if I see the word, if I see a guy met Kutz is going to come on today, the first place I go is to LinkedIn to see, hey, who's this guy? Right. And remember, when you are going to go for a job, the first place, so therefore your legacy carries over into your LinkedIn digital CV, that it better be up to date, it be relevant, it be pointed, and speak to the same things that you are speaking to. Any advice that you have for people on that point?
Yeah, so that's a great point. Is again, I'll go back to kind of what I said at the beginning. Most people think legacy is something that happens at the end, and it's just not true. Legacy is happening every day. A perfect example you just gave is you're going to Google Matt Kutz. Who is this guy? And you're going to see my articles. You're going to see my website. You're going to make assessments, accurate or inaccurate, about who I am and what legacy I've left up until now. And you're going to look at my track record and history and all that and form an opinion about me without knowing me. And that's what we need to tell your listeners is, listen, you already have a history out there that people are making assumptions about who you are without knowing you. And that can be awesome or dangerous. And so as leaders, as executives, as managers, as performers, we need to understand that I already have a legacy, and I better go back and make sure that it's what I want people to see and recognize and know. So the best advice I can have is begin to switch your mindset from legacy comes later to legacy is already established.
It is very, very on point. And I think that's where the personal brand assessment comes into play, is that it is critically important to understand yourself. And people are not very self-aware for the most part. You need to know and understand what your true differentiating strengths are so you don't sound like everybody else. Know and be aligned to your true values and ethics, and understand what you have been and how you're going to be presenting yourself going forward. So thank you for that topic, to talk about this, because these are actionable items that people can take today. Talk to me a little bit about your book, Epic Leadership. What was the intent behind that, and what are some of the key takeaways from the book?
Yeah. Thanks for that. So the book that just came out December 9th, I'm really excited about it. It's called Becoming Epic: How Excellence, Perception, Inspiration, and Compassion Are a Remedy for Mediocrity. And the reason I wrote it is because I personally have become incredibly frustrated with people accepting mediocrity as acceptable work. And what I found out and realized during my writing and research for that book is that mediocrity is really a risk mitigation technique. People, and it's so frustrating for me. So that's a little lost for words here, because I just want to, but people, you said it. I'll go back to what you said. People actually aren't very self-aware, and we think we are, and we're not. We don't really know why we're doing what we do, where the behaviors and the attitudes that we have come from, and we have to be better regulators of that. And the risk is mediocrity. When we fail to be aware of those things, we go into self-protection mode. Self-protection mode then is almost always manifests as mediocrity. So that was the frustrating or the solution, or the problem I'm trying to solve with this book, is the problem of mediocrity. And I have outlined 4 maxims that help us overcome mediocrity. Excellence, which isn't perfection. I go through great lengths to differentiate the two. Perfection is not possible anywhere by anybody, but excellence is. Excellence is repeatedly, consistently having habits of improvement. That's all that means. And then perception is simply seeing the world around you as it really is. And I talk about how to do that through 3D thinking. 3Ds are the 3 dimensions of time: hindsight, insight, and foresight, and how each of those 3 areas have to be bolstered in our lives to actually see clearly what is happening. And then inspiration, which kind of speaks for itself. we not only need to be inspired, but we need to become people who inspire others. And I talk about ways to do that and habits you can develop. And then finally, compassion, which is, I'll spare all the time here, but breaking down compassion into calm, meaning walking alongside with, and passion, meaning sorrow and grief and suffering, is compassion means walking alongside of sorrow, grief, and suffering, and not just other people's, but your own. So I leverage that to say an epic leader as someone who is willing to do the hard thing.
Yeah, and the hard thing is by being vulnerable and looking inward first before looking outward, then becoming that outward leader. So listen, it sounds really exciting to it. The topic, and I love the word epic, especially in healthcare, because the majority of the people have that EMR called epic. Now it's something that rings true and something that they probably can relate to. All right, so as we're getting to the end of it, near the end of the show, give us some key takeaways. What are some things that people can do today to work on their legacy, to work on being epic?
Yeah. So the first thing we need to do is take a personal inventory. And I'm a huge believer in this. And I know it can be like people just like, okay, whatever. But no, I'm very, very serious when I say take a personal inventory. Understand your biases. With my students in particular in the doctoral program that I teach, we go through this bias awareness training and this bias awareness module. And what that is understand that everything you do and everything you say goes through a filter, and your filter is biased. You might think, oh no, I'm not, I'm open-minded and all that. And I'm here to tell you, hogwash. You're not nearly as open-minded as you think. So, and I don't mean that to be, condescending in any way. I'm serious, myself included. So I have to be aware of what is biasing my thinking. What experiences have I had that are manifesting in the opportunity or the decision that's in front of me right now? And I need to be very clear on how those experiences have shaped my perception. Now, I'm not saying that's always bad. A lot of times our experiences give us good insight into things, but many times they don't. And so I'm asking you to consider for real. Take 5 minutes, sit in a dark room, close your eyes, and just think about the experiences that you've had in your life, both work-related and outside of work. And I found this with my coachees, so to speak, is many times they come back to me and they realize that the thing that affects my work behavior the most is not something that happened at a previous job or earlier in my career. It's actually something that happened when I was 12 years old on my family vacation at my grandfather's cottage, and something that was said there, something that was experienced there. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Go back and really think about your life experiences that are now manifesting in how you do your work today. That, I think, is a major, major help if we will take the time to actually do that.
I think that is rock solid advice, and I think it's a worthy undertaking to do that. These subconscious biases are real, and I remind people about this really that the levels that we go to from 0 to about 7 years old, we are told everything that we need to know, and we've experienced the things around us, right? We see things, we do things, we these are learned behaviors because other people told us. That's culture. And out of that culture, we have experiences. Out of that experiences, conscious and subconscious biases, we take action, and those action give us results. So if you're not happy with your results today, you better go back to do exactly what Matt just said, to really understand where that comes from. And from there, you can start taking, at least testing different pathways to become, more teachable, learn, and become a more effective leader. Love this conversation. Listen, we can talk about many other topics. Maybe we have to come and bring you back. Love your enthusiasm and energy. Where can we find you?
Best place is my website, Matthew Kutz. Kutz is Kutz, MatthewKutz.com, or the same website, drmattkutz.com. My books are there, my articles are there, contacts is there, and you can reach me through that. Okay. I'll throw out one other thing really quick. Sorry. Oh. If you would like a free chapter of the Becoming Epic, the first chapter on the problem of mediocrity, simply text the word EPIC to 55444, and you'll get the download. I don't ask for your email. It's not anything like that. Free chapter 1.
Look at that. I like that approach. Parting thought.
Parting thought. Take legacy seriously. Don't wait until the end of your career or when you're getting close to retirement to begin to think about it. And if you're a parent or a guardian or anything like that, begin to talk about the consequences of actions and behaviors with your kids now.
Thank you very much for being here today. A very valuable insight. And again, to the audience, none of this matters if you're only going to listen to this and you don't take actions. Remember that our conversation will be forgotten by tomorrow morning. So today, take meaningful action. You can go to the App Store, the Dutch Mentor, one word, download the Smart Performance app and start digging into that 15 minutes per day. Matt's episode will be there and lots of things that you can track along the way. Again, we'll see you at the next episode. Thank you, Matt, for being here today and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.